Hey guys, Michael here from michaelsherlock.com with HD video at youtube.com/therevived1. I just want to talk to you today about the 4th generation iPhone. There's a lot of rumors and speculation going around, and I personally don't have any inside information, but I just want to share my thoughts on what I feel needs to be, or what should be, in the 4th generation iPhone to make it a worthwhile upgrade. So the first thing is longevity. I really feel like, compared to other phones such as the Nokia E72, that the iPhone is not as strong or as cosmetically or aesthetically strong as other phones out there. I know I have my phone protected with a bodyguards or screen shield type thing as well as a case, whereas other phones, again going back to the Nokia, I have no problem with using nothing on it and it's still in perfect condition. So the first thing I think they need to do is add a dock connector cover. A lot of dirt and dust gets in there as well as water, so if they can integrate something into the design that just protects that, so when you're not syncing, that critical part isn't just wide open, I think that would be really important. Additionally, I think they need to improve their water indicators. Now obviously it is good for them to have some way of knowing, hey, this phone was broken via water, or hey, this phone just stopped working, we should replace it for free. They charge you about the cost of a new phone to replace it if it's water damage. So for an indicator to go off when it really wasn't dunked in water, maybe it was just humid or there was some moisture in your pocket or whatever the case may be, I don't think that's fair. So I think they need to make their water indicators a little bit more lenient. Additionally, I really think that this is a must-have, and I really think that they should do it, especially considering how important this design feature is to them for their Mac line. I think they need to make the new unibody or they need to make the new chassis out of an aluminum unibody construction. So it's just one solid piece of aluminum, and there's no chrome or glossy finish. I don't like the back plastic, it scratches. I don't like the chrome bezel, it scratches. I don't think that's pleasing. Of course, in pristine condition it looks cool, but all the work you need to put into buying cases, buying screen protectors, all that stuff, it's kind of a hassle, and personally, I don't want to deal with that. I hate cases. I would much rather use my iPhone with no protection at all. But if I want to keep it in good condition, I have to do that, and I think that's an issue. If they got rid of the chrome, gloss, plastic, and they just made it out of an aluminum construction all the way around, the phone would obviously shrink because the unibody makes it smaller because it's one piece, there's no screws, so we'd get a slimmer design as well as a more solid in the hand and one that'll last longer, and I think that's a nice feature. Talking about the screen, I think they need to upgrade the screen. When the first iPhone launched 3 years ago, it was a great thing, but really it hasn't changed much since then. The screens have become a little bit more warmer over time, but that's it. So we need an OLED screen, an organic LED screen, I think, with a higher resolution, probably bump it up to 800 by 480. I think that's the resolution. They really just need a higher pixel density and need to be able to accommodate better looking things and increased video resolution. Speaking of video resolution, they need a new camera. They recently updated the camera with the iPhone 3GS, which is why I'm skeptical that they'll actually do this. But to match, the Droid or the Nexus 1, which are direct competitors, those devices have 5 megapixel cameras and they look pretty good. And that's not even to mention some of the higher end phones that are 8, 12 megapixels. So a 5 megapixel camera with flash would be a great addition for the iPhone. It would just make it a little bit more, valuable. Nokia phones have had 5 megapixel cameras at least for a really long time, and I hate to, keep comparing them to one company, but if Apple wants to be predominant on the market, they need to really, aggressively improve their design. Now, I talked about the screen. I also think watching HD video is important. Obviously, the screen is not going to be 720p, but to be able to display those formats is really nice because we already have those formats with some of the content we have, and to not have to convert it and convert it to a lower resolution to watch on our mobile devices is really good. So if it could on the fly, decode 720p or 1080p content so we could watch it, and then maybe even export it or using a connector, watch full HD content on our television sets would be a nice thing, all powered on the iPhone 4th generation. That would be a nice feature to have. Speaking of which, again, they recently bumped the processing power, so I don't know if they're going to include a new CPU, but if they do, to accommodate these new features, I think a dual-core mobile CPU, the Snapdragon for instance, there's a dual-core model that gets up to 1.5 gigahertz. that is equivalent to some low-cost netbooks and laptops on the market. So perhaps they don't need to do that, but maybe a CPU bump. With all this power, we're going to need, or with all this new features, we're going to need some new power, so a bigger battery is nice. The iPhone 3GS battery lasts about a day when it's fully conditioned and you know how to use it properly, but I think that's a problem, having to worry about battery life, and I think just a beefier battery would be nice to have, just so maybe you could go 2 days without charging, which I definitely cannot do. And finally, the last feature, which a lot of people talk about but don't really understand or know why, but I think that it really is a feature that we should see, considering other phones have it in other parts of the world. So what I'm talking about is the long-fabled front-facing camera with mobile iChat. Could barely get through that sentence for some reason. But let's take, for instance, I have two Nokia phones on my desk here, the E72 and the 5800. Both have high-quality external cameras, but both also have front-facing cameras. Right now, they don't really work on AT&T's network, at least in the United States. But I know in Europe that video calling is a feature that they have and use. So to bring this to the market, it would be a revolutionary feature. Who knows if it would be practical, but I think it would be pretty cool to be able to, hold your device up, speak to somebody, as a phone call. And since we already have to have data plans anyway, I guess that doesn't really matter. So you can hold up the device, talk to them, switch to the 5-megapixel camera if you want. You can stream whatever this content is to people, that you have. So video calling, mobile iChat. So maybe you could even do a presentation and talk to multiple people. But of course, that gets a little bit dicey when you consider AT&T's 3G network, but maybe just one-to-one calling would be fine for 3G, and if you wanted more intense things, you'd maybe have to connect to Wi-Fi or whatever the case may be. So those are just my hopes for the 4th generation iPhone. They all seem pretty realistic and could happen, but I think the biggest thing is just increasing the longevity of these devices, particularly aesthetically, by using a unibody construction and dropping the plastic and glossy chrome finishes that make us spend extra money buying protection in cases. Because there's still going to be people that love that stuff, and I know a lot of people really love that customization, that uniqueness. But for me, I don't want to deal with any of that. If I could have a device that doesn't require me to protect it at all, and it'll still be in top-notch condition a year or 2 years after I buy it, that's really important. So, I'm Michael Sherlock from michaelsherlock.com. What are your thoughts about the 4th generation iPhone? Do you think my ideas can come true, or do you think there are more features that Apple needs to include? Leave me a video response or text comment below. Twitter.com/blue42richmond if you want to get in direct contact with me to send me some of your information, and you can also email me at therevivedone@gmail.com. Have a nice day.